Well, good morning, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm First Alert meteorologist Jake Lamb. Right, got a lot to talk about today in our First Alert weather breakdown, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Of course, we'll take a look at your weekend forecast. Some spotty rain showers still remaining possible through Saturday morning. We'll talk about that and the cooler temperatures that we will all see once this front finally moves to our south. Also, we'll have to take a look ahead to next week. That warming trend will start back up pretty quickly, but we do have another cold front moving through by the end of next week. That should help to drop those temperatures back at least a few degrees by the end of the week. From there, we will talk a little bit more about the spring hummingbird migration patterns. We've been talking about that a little bit on social media, so I've got some fun facts and more info for you, and also ways that you can kind of keep tabs on the bird migration if that is something that you're interested in. All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. We'll start with a beautiful view from our Mattress Plus sky cam looking into downtown Shreveport. You'll notice some of that cloud cover there finally has started to break up. See the sunshine there from this is actually right outside the KSLA studio looking downtown. Otherwise, again, a beautiful view out there today. Now, we do have the chance for at least a couple of isolated showers out there as we go throughout the day today, but we do have some dry air in place. So we'll talk a little bit more, kind of go in depth as to why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking when it comes to these rain chances today. So let's start off about 1:30, 2 o'clock this afternoon. You'll see some spotty showers, and I will say these newer updates of Future Track are starting to line up a little bit more with what I agree with. You'll notice most of the area staying dry, not seeing much in the way of rain. By the afternoon, it puts a few more spotty showers out there, nothing excessive, and then those quickly start to wrap up just after dinner time, heading closer to 9 p.m. Now, as we head through the night tonight, I think that front that's just to our south right now will kind of wobble a little bit further to our north, bringing some of that moisture up, and will also provide a source of lift. Will allow for a couple more of these spotty showers heading into the day tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, I think is where we have a better chance to see some rain. Then by the afternoon, that clears out as that front makes its final push through the Arklatex, and then really rain chances are going to be zeroed out as we go through the first half of next week. Even the second half of next week, there are some very low-end rain chances in the mix. Again, as another weak front kind of gets closer to our area, but those rain chances not going to be all that high. All right, here's a look right now. Usually I don't show you much in the way of current conditions, but I do want to show you our humidity because this here shows us a good idea of where that front is located right now. That contrast is very noticeable. So south of this yellow line that I'm drawing, so areas out toward Natchitoches and south, where it's that darker green color, deeper green, that's where we've got more moisture out there right now. Really, for much of the Arklatex, we've got some pretty dry air in place at this point, which again will allow for maybe a stray shower or two. Nothing crazy as we go through the afternoon. Of course, future relative humidity there showing, again, that dry air continuing. But as we head into the day tomorrow, that's where you'll notice we don't have a crazy amount of moisture, but again, more moisture than what we've got today. And then once that front finally pushes through, again, that's where you start to notice that drier air building in across the Arklatex. So if you see rain today, this is a look kind of what our rainfall totals. Again, for those that may see a few drops of rain, we're talking 1/10 of an inch of rain or less. Not looking at very impressive totals whatsoever. We need some more rain, of course. We've got our latest drought monitor out, which I'll show you that here coming up in just a second. Again, after today, though, rain chances, or after early tomorrow morning, rain chances are zeroed out as we head into parts of next week. All right, let me pull up our drought monitor. We'll actually compare it to last week's update as well. I've got a nice little comparison here, so let me go ahead and make that full screen for you. This latest drought monitor update, I'm kind of taking a closer look there. Severe level drought conditions, or that level 2 out of 5, has expanded a good bit since last week's update. You'll notice out toward Marion County, back into Cass and into southwestern Arkansas. That was last week's update under level 1 here in that tan. That has started to fill in. We've got more severe level drought conditions, or level 2 out of 4 on the drought monitor scale. Otherwise, I'm not seeing a lot in the way of changes. I'm looking very closely at this. Of course, that comparison's right there on your screen right now. And beyond that expansion, kind of that severe level or level 2 drought filling in right in this area, not seeing a huge change from last week's update. And we had a good bit of rain last weekend. So again, unfortunately, the drought monitor getting worse once again instead of improving. All right, so I know we're not getting much rain to help with the drought, so let's talk about temperatures. This is something we're all going to see as we head into the upcoming weekend. This is Monday morning. We'll start the day off in the mid-30s. You'll notice today, tomorrow, high temperatures in Shreveport, likely in the mid-60s. As we head into Sunday, though, low 60s. Sunday night into Monday, that's the first night then we're going to see frosty conditions. So I would bring your pets in and your plants in during the day on Sunday. During the afternoon hours on Monday, probably going to be a few degrees warmer than this at Shreveport Bossier. I've got us right around 57, 58 degrees. And then once again, Monday night to Tuesday, we're back to the point where I think a lot of us are going to see frost, if not a light freeze, depending on where you are in the Arklatex. So keep your pets and plants inside as we go into Monday night, early Tuesday morning. After that, though, you're going to be good. Highs on Tuesday likely reaching the mid 60s, if not upper 60s. And then as we head into early Wednesday morning, we're talking temperatures in the upper 40s to low 50s. Your freeze forecast there kind of shows you that a little bit better, basically reiterating what I just said. Sunday night and Monday night, pets and plants need to be indoors, and after that, you're going to be all good. Now, when it comes to high temperatures, Monday going to be the coolest day out of the next 7. Highs there mid-upper 50s. We're in the mid-60s Tuesday, and then already back to near 80 degrees by Wednesday. A very quick warm-up as that front kind of approaches on Thursday. Temperatures expected to be a little bit cooler with highs in the mid-70s. So that there is kind of a look at your forecast. We'll take a look here at your 7-day real quick. I'll make that full screen so y'all can see it a little bit better. Again, once we get these low-end rain chances out of the way, it's going to be dry and sunny heading through much of your weekend and into the start of next week. Some cloud cover possible as we head into Wednesday, and then we see partly cloudy skies for your Thursday. So that there's kind of a look at the next your weekend and the next couple of days. We're going to go a little bit more in depth with your spring hummingbird migration pattern coming up right after this short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Meteorologist Jake Lambright here. Want to go ahead and dive into some exciting things coming our way for the spring. We talked about the total lunar eclipse that's on the way, beginning of March, and next thing we've got going on, our hummingbirds will start to migrate our way as we head into the month of March as well. Here's a look at the migration map for spring of 2026. They arrive about a similar time every year. However, there have already been a few sightings there along the Gulf Coast, right at the coast, as we've been kind of warmer these past few weeks. So already starting to see some sightings out there. I'll make this map full screen for you here so you can see it a little bit better. Make that go back to full screen. There you go. So as you get toward the southern half of Louisiana, the southern half of Texas, of course, we're getting close to the 1st of March, and the first half of March in the darker green, that's where hummingbird migration peaks again. Southern half of Texas, southern half of Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, Alabama. But as we get closer to the middle of March, March 15th through the 30th, that's when migration will peak right here in the Arklatex. So if you don't have your feeders ready already, go ahead and get that stuff good to go here in the next couple of weeks, because again, hummingbird migration peaks for us in the Arklatex the middle of the month, the 15th through the 30th. Now, there were a couple things when I was doing some research on this, some fun facts that I found that I want to kind of walk you through. And first off, I was amazed at how fast a hummingbird's heart beats. And that's not a typo that you see there on your screen. During migration, their heart will beat up to 1,260 times each minute. That is crazy. That is fascinating. Also, when they're flying around, their wings can flap anywhere between 15 to 80 times per second. I mean, I knew that they flapped fast because you can hardly see them. They're moving so fast, but did not realize that they could flap as fast as 80 times in one singular second. That is amazing. And then also, of course, with how far they have to migrate, they need a lot of energy. So hummingbirds, before they start migrating, will actually gain 25 to 40% of their body weight to give them high energy as they start to migrate. Some more fun facts I found about this, and all of this info is courtesy of Hummingbird Central. They can travel up to 23 miles in a single day, but during their entire migration stretch over, again, the span of a couple months, they can cover up to 500 miles in one migration span. So they migrate back to the south. Of course, now they're migrating north. That starts early March for the Gulf Coast. I'll actually pull this map back up here so we can kind of talk it through together. The Gulf Coast, 1st of March, and then they get closer to the U.S.-Canada border by the middle of May. So about 2 months or so, between 60 to 90 days. That's how long it takes for them to migrate across the United States. They'll migrate back to the south during the months of August and September. And I think we have the best chance of seeing them closer to September here in the Arctic. Not just hummingbirds, but birds in general as they fly back south to get to that warmer weather. Again, that's usually whenever we see them the best. So one thing you may be wondering, and let me see if I can actually adjust this real quick, is how can you track hummingbirds or just bird migration in general? Well, the people over at Cornell have this site called Birdcast that they developed. Let me make that full screen. I have to apologize there for that technical difficulty. There we go. Make that site full screen for you there. So this is called, the website is called birdcast.info. So you type that into your browser. It's not a .com, but .info. And this was developed by Cornell, Colorado State University, and then the University of Massachusetts. So you can even sign up for local bird migration alerts if you want to see whenever there's elevated migration in our area. You can sign up for those alerts. You can see forecast maps and also live bird migration maps. So I'll actually go back, get my mic there, or get my mouse there. I'll take a look at the migration map from last night. So you can kind of see there the legend on the side. This is measuring how many thousands of birds are moving per kilometer each hour. We'll kind of go back. So that was around 9:40 Eastern time last night. You'll notice a decent amount of birds. They're migrating across northern Louisiana and southern Arkansas, but I can play this map for you. You can kind of see that red line indicates sunset, green line is sunrise. So not a lot of bird activity just yet. Again, we're a couple weeks away from kind of the peak, at least with hummingbirds specifically. So they use real-time analysis maps and also use the weather radars that we use to detect rain. Sometimes, especially whenever we get to those peak weeks of bird migration, we can sometimes see birds pop up on radar in addition to ground clutter and some other things, especially during the evening hours. So here's a look at the migration forecast maps. These actually are not active currently, but start back up on March 1st, whenever the peak migration starts to pick up. So these migration forecasts, and this is again according to the Birdcast website, they show the predicted nocturnal migration 3 hours after local sunset, and these forecasts are updated every 6 hours. So the forecasts come from models that were trained on the last 23 years of bird movements in the atmosphere that were detected by the U.S. NEXRAD Weather Surveillance Radar Network, or just, I know that was a lot of jargon there. Basically, the weather radars, like the one we have out at the airport, there are hundreds spread out across the country. Cornell, Colorado State, they have done 23 years of research using these radars to pinpoint when birds are the most active and when they're moving across the country. So that's how, that's some of the way that they've been able to research and kind of predict when birds will travel. Now, they also use the global forecasting system. You may have heard us refer to this as the GFS model every once in a while, or the American model that we use to pinpoint rain, forecast temperatures, that kind of stuff. They actually use the GFS model as well to predict suitable conditions for bird migration. So in addition to the data that they've collected over the last 23 years, what they've observed on weather radars as birds travel, as well as ideal forecast conditions. They combine both of those to make these forecast maps. And I'll put that back full screen so you can kind of read along if you'd like to as well. So again, it's some pretty cool data that goes into that. The maps, looks like they also show precipitation forecasts that are kind of outlined in the gray. I'll go back up so you can see that sample image. So where there's kind of gray outlines, that's where there could be precipitation. Maybe not as ideal for birds migrating. But again, areas forecast experience precipitation and bird migration may overlap. Predictions for migration intensity may be highly variable in these locations. So as I was just kind of alluding to a second ago, kind of the precipitation could impact migration. But again, something pretty cool. Again, a lot of research goes into these. It's not something that was just thrown together in 2 seconds. 23 years of research, both kind of monitoring birds on the radar and then also utilizing the America model to forecast the ideal conditions, what birds like to travel in, what they don't like to travel in as far as temperatures go, precipitation, and all of that. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up there. I'll actually put that map back on the screen for a couple seconds. Again, we're going to start to see hummingbirds peak in the Arklatex March 15th through the 30th, and I'm going to be tracking bird migration there on that Birdcast website, and then also sharing with you the latest as we get closer to peak time. But that's going to do it for me on the First Alert Weather Breakdown. I will have another forecast update for you coming up on KSLA News 12 at noon. If you're watching on our website, the KSLA News app on your phone or your Roku, Fire, Apple TV device, you can watch that noon newscast right here. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great rest of your day, and also have a great weekend.